So today we have September 29 to 2019. Now this is of course the pagan Gregorian calendar 2019. But this is another topic. So today we have September 29, 2019, and we celebrate the feast of YOM TERUAH, and we're going to try to dig a bit in this feast to understand what is outside from tradition and outside of so many fancy approach. We're trying to try to stick to what the scripture says and explain why we celebrate Yom Teruah. Okay, so first of all I will read from the Torah, from Vayikra, so Leviticus chapter 23. This is where we find all the feasts of Jehovah, and we read in the verse 23, also Vayikra 23:23. And Jehovah spake unto Moshe, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, In the 7th month, in the first of the month, shall you have a Shabbat, a memorial of blowing of trumpet and holy convocation. This is the version from the King James. I will read now from the TS 2009. And Jehovah spake to Moshe, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, saying, In the 7th new moon, on the first day of the new, you have a rest, a remembrance of Teruah, a set-apart gathering. So here we see that they have included the term Teruah instead of blowing the trumpet. Trumpet is really a term which is not accurate, because the trumpet is made of metal, and especially in the scripture, in the Torah, is silver metal. So now we're going to see the use and understanding of the scripture. So I'm going to look here for the term blowing of trumpet, and if I go into the let me see. Okay, teruah is an Hebrew words which mark a specific sound. In the sounding of the shofar, first of all, this is not a trumpet, this is a shofar. This is an animal horn which is used for different purpose. And here the word teruah is used in different ways, and we're going to see together to understand what is particular in the 7th month. Before I go on to Teruah, I want to explain that numbers in the scripture have a specific purpose, and maybe we'll make a video on the numbers. But now to say that the number 7 is the number which marks the perfection on earth. How do we know that? Because it is written in the book of Bereshit, Genesis, that Jehovah make everything in 6 days. On the 7th day he rested, and he found that everything was perfect. So we see the 7th day mark the perfection on earth. Every time you see number 7 or the multiple from 7, you can ask, what is the purpose here? 7. We have 7 days. We have 7 colors. We have 7 weeks for the Yovel, and we have for the 7 weeks for the Shemitah, and 7 years for the Yovel, and we have 7 millennium before the Olam Haba, or the life eternal. So this is very interesting. Every time you take a number, you can look in the scripture, where do I find this number 1, 2, 3, so a particular one is echad, which means really one, and not a compound one, but one. And you can look for 3, for 4, you go up to 13, and 13 you will see, as we're going to speak today, that 13 is a very specific number also. And so we learn to discern in the scripture what is the meaning of these numbers. So now we go back to this Yom Teruah today, which is in the 7th month. So the 7th month here in the Hebrew calendar is the ending or the closing of the agricultural work. This is the last month where everything has been finished. This feast, which will be now come with the Feast of Sukkot, which is the Feast of Rejoicing, is when the farmers have entered into their barns all the harvest, the grapes, and all the fruits, the figs. If you come here in this place at this time, in our place in South France, you will see that our fig trees are full of the second harvest of figs. So we can see that it is a time of diverse fruits are gathering to rejoice in the bounty of Jehovah. So this is the closing of the harvest time for the farmers. It starts in the 1st month, which is called the month of Aviv, with the grain harvest. All this up to the Feast of Shavuot is all concern the harvest of the grain. But the 7th month, it is the gathering of the ripe fruit. This is the first meaning that we have here in the scripture. All is based on the agricultural life in Eretz Israel in the time of Yeshua and before. So now we need to have this context to understand properly what does it mean. And the people were living according to this timing. The blessing were brought by Jehovah to bring the rain in its season in order to make the fruit and the land prosper. And this is how Jehovah was chastening his people when he refrained to give the rain in the due season, or even to give rain during the harvest, to destroy the harvest. So now we understand that the 7th month is the closing, and it is a very important time, because we're going to see that as we speak from Yom Teruah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot are one feast in itself, and they have a specific purpose. Today, it has become a traditional view among many Messianic who adopt the tradition from Judaism, which is Rosh Hashanah and every view from Judaism, which is not what we should look as followers of Yeshua. Yeshua do not tell us that we have to celebrate Rosh Hashanah. He said that we have to celebrate the Yom Teruah. Yom Teruah, the first day of the new moon of the 7th month, and not to go to Rosh Hashanah or all this tradition. You of us know, we know that one time everything will go back to the original. And this is important for us to understand. Yeshua set us free for many doctrines, and we shouldn't go back to this doctrine. I don't want to enter too much into why it is called Rosh Hashanah and why it is the head of the years in the Jewish tradition, and so on and so on. But if you look into the Torah will tell us what it is really, and we don't have to go into this tradition. And believe me, it is enough if we keep the time to search for the right meaning. So here we have read that in the 7th month we have to blow the shofar, the trumpet, the shofar. So there is a specific sound. So the shofar is an instrument which is made out of animals' horns. Okay, so different ones. Today you have many, from the cheaper one to the very expensive and so on. Again, this is tradition, but this is It's made of animal's horn, and it has a specific purpose. We have three kinds of blast. The first blast is a tekiah, which is a long sound, ununterbroken. It's a long sound. Okay, and then we have the shevarim, which is a three short blast, and then we have the teruah. The teruah is a 9 short blast, which goes on and stop. So now the teruah is very specific sound, which is if I look in the strong or in the other place. I don't know if you have strong here. No, I think I have. Yes, it's strong. Also here is a claymore, acclamation of joy, a battle cry, an alarm. You see, and it comes from the word ruah, which means to shout, to split the ears very loud. So, and this is an alarm sound, and we're gonna see. I will look in some few verses for you to look where we found the teruah. Okay, we go to number 10:7. You see, and you see here is very interesting. I still read from the King James, and we read here Numbers 10, chapter 10, verse 7, Bamidbar 10:7. But when you assemble the community, you must blow, but you must not sound an alarm. You see, you must not sound an alarm. So there must be another sound. But here, when you go to alarm, the word in number 10:7, if you read the word alarm, if you click on it, then you will see teruah. Okay. Number 10:9, he said, if you go to war in your land against an adversary who oppose you, then you must sound an alarm, teruah, with a trumpet, and you will be remembered before Jehovah your Elohim, and you will be saved from your enemy. Very clear. Here it is a teruah, the sound of the shofar, which is a cry to Elohim. Second Chronicle 13:12. Now look, Elohim is with us as our leader. His priests are ready to blow the trumpet, the signal, the attack against you. You Israelite, don't fight against Jehovah Elohim of your ancestor. You will not win. You see here the trumpet is against teruah. Yoel 2:1, and we read, blow the trumpet, sound the alarm signal on my Kadosh mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land shake with fear, for the days of Jehovah is about to come. Indeed, it is near. Again, sound the alarm. The alarm signal is also teruah. You see, this sound is very specific to warn the people that something is coming ahead. And we see it. I know that you can say also that the sound is also used in other places. We have the sound, it is as cry, you see, in Judges 7:21. They stood in order all around the camp. The whole army ran away. They shouted, they scrambled away. They shouted, ruah, okay? In Yov 35, they were banished from the community. People shouted at them like they would shout at thieves. Okay, you see the term ruah here, to shout with a loud voice. Okay, and we have some few verses with also where the word teruah has been translated. As I say has been translated. It doesn't mean that it means that. Okay, we have in Yov 38:7, when the morning stars sang in chorus, and all the nations and all the sons of Elohim shouted for joy. Also shouted, it is a loud sound. Okay, we have seen that, ruah. Okay, but the majority of verse will tell us that it is a shout of alarm. A shout of alarm, as we see in Yehoshua, the son of Nun, 6:5. We read, shout, you see, when you hear the signal from the ram's horn, the shofar, have the whole army give a loud battle cry, then the city wall will collapse and the warrior should charge straight ahead. It was again the shofar. You see, it was an alarm of something coming. And if you go on your own to search for the word shofar, you will see that it is always with heralding something coming, a very loud sound. So now we are in the 7th month and we want to understand what's happened here. What's happened? So we have seen in the beginning, I explained that it is the 7th month is the closing of the harvest time. Don't forget that in the scripture, in the Torah, everything is related to the harvest. And if we read the teaching from our master Yehoshua, we will see that he always related his parable and his teaching to the agricultural life among the people, to make them understand. You know, people didn't went to the university to have a big head full of so-called knowledge. No, they were practical people. They were Hebrew people working in the farm, or fishermen, and they have a simple understanding. And this is why Elohim chose the agricultural system to explain to all the people what he wants them to understand, right? So now we are in the 7th month, the first day of the month. This is called the new moon, okay? Yom Chodesh, okay? And now, what is it? What is following? We have Yom Kippur coming 10 days later, and we have the Feast of Sukkot coming 15 days later, which lasts also again 7 days. 7 days, okay? 7 days, conclusion of everything. We know that the world has been created in 6 days. There is another topic, 6 days. On the 7th day, Elohim rested and was refreshed. So in the 6 days, we are now in the 6th millennium, and we are coming to the 7th millennium. At the beginning of the 7 millenniums, we know that we expect the Mashiach to come back to establish Elohim's kingdom on earth for his people. So again, we see 7, the number 7, and I encourage you to look for numbers from the number 1 to the number 13, 15, 17, 18, and you will see, and multiple, and you will see that it's amazing the message you can have behind the numbers. So numbers are used in the scripture, and we don't even understand. As for instance, Gematria. Gematria was a tool used in the 1st century. When John, wrote the book of John, in the chapter 20, I think it's 20 or 21, 20, he speaks about Yeshua being on the seashore with his disciple, and he told them to catch fish, and they found 153 fish. So we have to ask, why not 160 or the 203 or the 55? So there is a specific purpose here with the 153 fish. And maybe we'll make a video one time. There is another plan we see in the Torah. So in the Torah already, where the Gematria was used, we see that when Lot was taken by the enemies, and Abraham decided to go to deliver his nephew Lot. What does he say? He goes with 318 of his people, but not 305, or the 325, or the 330, no, 318. And there is a purpose behind this number. If we understand that, we see how the Torah reveals things unto us of the presence of Jehovah in the Torah, in the scripture, and it was used in the 1st century. This is not something which is from the 20th or the 21st century. It is very old. As we read for the Torah, if we study the Torah, we will come to a deep understanding. If people do not, to the majority of people, ignore the Torah and go into the assembly to debate about vain things. But if you go in the scripture and you look what was in the time of Yeshua, you will see that the Torah was the pillar of every Shabbat. The foundation, the pillar. And if you go to the book of Acts, chapter 15, you will see that Yaakov, the one who is called James, say that we don't have to force all the goyim coming into the Torah, but to go to the assembly every Shabbat, because Moshe of old is read in the assembly every Shabbat. Every Shabbat, it never changed until today. So the Shabbat, the Torah, is a tree of life unto all those who take hold of it. And when we learn the Torah, year after year, we grow in understanding. Okay. So now go back to the feast of Yom Teruah. It's one day. One day Yom Teruah, we consecrate this time of this alarm. This alarm has two meanings. It's an alarm of redemption and an alarm of judgment. Because now the shofar sounding remind the people of something coming 10 days later. 10 days later we have Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur, as we see it, is a feast where we are all called into a fast. And this fasting is a particular fasting because it is a collective fasting. When we enter the fast of Yom Kippur, we enter into the fast of Israel, the chin of Israel, the 12 tribes. We join Israel in the fasting to humble ourselves before Elohim. But there is something which you know, Yom Kippur has been achieved by our Master Yahushua, because he entered the heaven with his own blood, according to the book of Hebrew. So we understand that for us, this Yom Kippur is redemption, but it is also judgment for those from the nations. And it is a time of the coronation of the King, when King Yeshua will be enthroned in Jerusalem at this second coming. So we have to understand that. And then we will have the Feast of Sukkot. So this Yom Teruah is proclaiming a great event that is to come 10 days later. And it's amazing, why does Elohim choose 10, the number 10? This is the only feast we find which occurs, which is not in the place of the Shabbat, but which is on the 10th of the month. Again, we have to look the particularity of the number 10, and we will more understand why Elohim chose the number 10. Okay? So, Yom Teruah, a day of blowing the shofar, a day of shouting loud, a day of an alarm, a day to remember what Elohim has done for us through Mashiach Yahushua, was deliver us from the land of Mitzrayim, Egypt. Mitzrayim, the land of oppression. We were all prisoners from Egypt in our bondage of the life in the world. Now we are in Yeshua, and we should be